Hey, what's up? I often tell people that they should practice refactoring and even doing TDD on HelloWorld because HelloWorld is the biggest code smell program in the world, in my opinion, and rightfully so, because it is, the keep it simple, short and simple, the KISS principle. It follows all of that kind of stuff, and it just does what it needs to do and it's done. We don't have a bunch of frameworks, third-party frameworks and cruft inside of this program. So that's good. But the problem is that it's not it doesn't represent the the way a program should be like modularized at scale or anything, right? So this is what we learn as little simple toy programs or whatever you want to call them, like Hello World, and then we're typically not taught how to scale that. And then when we do start talking about scaling programs, working with legacy code, things like that, it tends to be much more advanced examples. But I feel like Hello World's the perfect little kernel of a bad example, like I was saying. I've done a whole bunch of these videos, or at least a couple of them, I'd imagine, with Python, I think, years ago, or maybe a year ago. I don't know. So, anyway, I'll see how this one does as Java and see if the YouTube algorithm penalizes me for it. Or maybe I just won't even post it on YouTube. Because for some reason, if you take something you've done in the past and iterate over it and try and make a better presentation, then they penalize you for that. I had one of my highest ranking videos ever. I'll keep this short and sweet, but I was up for the first time in my life to thousands of views, and it was narrating the Scrum Guide, the 2017 Scrum Guide, and I thought, oh, everybody likes this. I'll narrate the 2020 or whatever the next edition of the Scrum Guide was. And I did that, and I tried to keep the background noise down and do it a little better than the first time. And YouTube blocked both of those videos at that moment from being advertised or anything like that. And I never saw another view after 3,000 on that original Scrum Guide. And the only way I got the new Scrum Guide up to 100 was by putting it on my front page of my channel. But anyway, that's all peripheral stuff. That doesn't matter. Let me get to this. So I have a class, hello world, keeping it simple, public static void main, all that good stuff. And then I've got system out print line hello world, right? If we run this program, I've got a little terminal over here. I can Java C it. I'm just using Java 8. Um, hello world dot Java. I've already kind of dinked around with it. That's why there's some class files. Probably haven't dinked around with it enough though. Alright, so there it is, hello world, doing exactly what we expect. Just printing, or I'll leave it up there. Just printing hello world to the screen, right? So nothing wrong with that. If we wanted to test it, we could just have, we don't even need test-driven development, right? We're done. Like if this was the order from a customer and they're just like, I just want a program that prints this string to the console and is done, or to a log or whatever, we'd be done. We could have one user acceptance test that was like a snapshot test that just looks at the output of the entire program and it's good, right? Well, then in theory, the customer calls us back and they're like, hey, we really appreciate the work you did on Hello World and everything. Everybody just loves it. However, we need Hello World in another language now or something, right? So you've got to go in and edit this code. So what do we do now? Where do we even begin, right? So, of course, test driven development, which helps us decide instead of just looking at the forest from a distance, we zoom in and we go, okay, what's the next step? Where's the next step we can go from here? So I'll start a new file, which I already have one, but I'll just pretend I don't. So it's going to be a class. It's going to be a test class. So it's going to be hello world test. And it's going to have a good old public static void main. Just a good old boilerplate, right? And then, so from here, what do we want to do? Let me go ahead and save this. Get it to a good file name here. Where's, I don't have a hello world test yet, so I'll just do hello world and then put test in here. All right, I guess any good test-driven development should run a failing test, right? So let's create that failing test, and it should be, we'll just have a method on the hello world called say hello. Okay, I'll save that and I'll run it over here in the console. Compile it, hello world test. Oh, already got an error. Error, cannot find symbol say hello on hello world. Okay, cool. So there's nothing we can do here in the test to fix that up, so we'll jump back over here, and we obviously need this method. So it's going to be automatically within the default package. I try not to use any of that cruft of like creating a package and a whole directory hierarchy and all that stuff unnecessarily, especially in simple examples like this. So anyway, just so you know, we're going to say hello. We don't even need public because it's the same package, right? And then we'll just go ahead and make this void. Say hello. Oops. No params. No body. Save it. Jump back out here. We got hello world test Java. I think I should also compile hello world. So we'll compile hello world test.java. And what does it say? Non-static method. Okay, not a big deal. Void. I'll go ahead and put static. This is kind of the way I prefer to do stuff. And we'll try and compile it again. All right, it compiled, but will it run? So Java, hello world, test, runs, no errors. All right, so that's working so far. That's not a proper test though, right? I mean, this would ideally be embedded inside of a test, and then we'd get, so we'll say test, say hello. We'll just call it that for now. Can always refactor it later. Test, say hello. And obviously you don't even need a big testing framework to do this kind of stuff. So test, say hello. And this one's also going to have to be as is, like a static void at least. Test, say hello. And in here we're going to do hello world. And what should it say? We need to make sure this returns, it's going to say hello world just like the old program did. So what we could do here is use the assert keyword, the built-in one since Java 1.4, and we can assert, and it is a keyword, not a function or a method or anything, that that this function compares to, it returns hello world. Because that's what we'll have our main program do. Our public static void main or whatever in the main program instead of the test will call say hello, and then there'll be some determination in that function to decide which language we're even going to say hello in. So at this point we're effectively going to be refactoring legacy code because this is pre-existing code. It could be months or years down the road. Do all that. Save this. It's going to assert that. Assert will throw an assertion error if this isn't true, and it should break out of the running program. So say hello should not say hello world, so therefore this is a failing test. So let's go back and compile. Okay, so it already determined that the type is not allowed here because say hello, I believe the void type, because it's comparing a no return value to a return value. So I'll jump over here, write just enough code to make it pass. So this is going to return a string. And it should complain about that as well, that I'm not even returning a string. Okay, error, string void. Did I leave void in there? Oops. Meant to get leave static in there. Okay. And as you can see, we're knocking out these errors one by one. As soon as we make a little change, we know it's right there. Let me see if I can keep this in view. All right, error missing return statement. Fair enough. Come over here. And of course, we probably in the real world would skip a few of these steps and know that like, hey, I've got to return a string or something, right? And we might not do every little step, but in practice, I think it's good to do every little step. Trying to compile again. All right, it compiled. Let's see if Java hello world test. Actually, I could probably back right up to that hello world test. Test pass. Or do they? So here's the catch with Java. With the assert statement, you have to pass the enable assertions command line parameter or they won't run. So the assert keyword built into Java is not exactly like we expect to do test-driven development. It's actually meant to be, as far as I can tell, to not be running most of the time in a production system. And then if something starts happening, going wrong in a production system, then you can enable assertions and assert that, basically run a extra tests at that moment, extra runtime tests. But anyway, we're using it in the test-driven unit test style thing, and we'll just go ahead and roll with that. We just have to remember to keep that EA flag in there. And there you can see exception in thread main, Java lang assertion error, which is the right type of error. That means it is our assertion that failed, and it says hello world test dot test say hello world test Java 8 at hello world test main hello blah, blah, blah. So all we really care about is in test line 8 or 3 here. So 3's calling into this method, and then obviously line 8 right here, we're not getting the expected result. So one thing I can do there too, trying to remember the syntax of the assert statement. I believe I can put a comma there, or I would do assert. Yeah, I think I can do like a comma. What I can do is look it up. Let's go Java assert. And of course, there we go, programming with assertions. Okay, so it looks like actually a colon. Okay, that's good to know. So it's a, I can put a colon here. We're going to assert that hello world say hello compares to the text hello world. And if not, then right here is where we put what not only will be our error message, but I also like to make this message read so that when we're skimming through the tests, it reads to me in that context as well as in an error context. So I'll just put text should match. I like to use all caps so it sticks out, especially within the error message itself and obviously scrolling through it. And that lets me know, okay, that's what's wrong. In the previous assertion, the return text should match. All right, I'm going to save that, compile it, and then run it with the EA flag. There we go. All right, and then you can see there's text should match. Still not entirely obvious. One other trick I do sometimes is I'll do like, a line break, maybe 2 even, before and after like that. And there we go. Then text should match. Maybe put an I can't talk today. Exclamation point there at the end, or something that would make that even stand out, but at least it tells us a little bit of something. Could always get more detail. Okay, so text should match hello world. So let's jump back over here to our failing test and let's return hello world. I think that's the simplest thing we could do to possibly make the test pass. Compile and run. All right, looks like all the tests are passing. So that's good. So far, so good. So what we can see here is actually this has become more like this, right? Effectively. So yeah, I know you might be thinking, maybe, hopefully you're thinking right now that like, what are you doing? You're messing with production code, but you're not writing a test to do that. Well, the production code I'm messing with is main. And main in your production code, the main entry point is a substitute for your test entry points because you're running your test instead of main. That's why we have a public static void main over here in the test. We still have a main because we're running that main instead, literally. If you're using a framework, that wouldn't be as apparent, but that's effectively what's going on. So I'm changing code that this part of the code is not test driven. This is, I mean, arguably it could be in some other form or fashion, but just to let you know why I'm messing around like this. Okay, so now I can go out here, recompile everything, and then I'm going to run the actual program. I don't need to have assertions enabled, but I'll just leave them. And there it is, hello world. So we know that the main program from a user test standpoint also does what it's supposed to do there, using this little piece that we constructed via test-driven development, via unit test. Okay, so that's that. And then if we want to be able to, say, override this function, I could come down here, right? And make it say test hello. And then I can add in language here, right? I'm trying to think of all of, or at least a few possible ways that I could do this. I don't want to overthink it at this point, right? Because there is technically an infinite way of doing this. So what I'll say is, just to do a quick one, just to keep it super simple and a little bit language agnostic, I could just even use a string. That's what like JavaScript used to do. And I don't know, I assume some languages still do it. A lot of frameworks still do it to this day, is to use a string and then switch over that string. So we're going to take a string S, or actually we'll call it language, and then we'll come in here and say trying to think again, because I'm going to have duplicate function or duplicate methods effectively here, right? And I'm not going to worry about even following the dry principle. I allow myself to violate the dry principle a very few times before I turn around and enforce it on myself. So that being said, it's okay to duplicate right here. Something that I would want to clean up in a refactor most likely. So I'll go in here and I'll say assert hello world, da 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 da. Well, obviously I need the French version of this, or I forgot if I was doing French or Spanish. I don't know. Whatever. So I'll go to DuckDuckGo, which I don't endorse, but it's just the one I'm picking. And I'll say hello world French. See if it figures it out. There it goes. Okay. I don't know how accurate this is, but I'm going to trust it. And I'll make this one say that. And this string language. So what I'm going to do here is say if, am I in the test? I'm in the test writing this, huh? Okay, my bad on that one. I should just rename this. Got a little bit of a dual mentality going. Say hello world French, or I'll even make it say in French. Say hello in French, and that doesn't need a string language passed in just yet. And then it's going to be all the same stuff right here. I messed up. I just need to make sure that it actually says that. Okay, cool. Now I'm going to save that. I need to copy this test up here to actually run it, because it's our own little built up framework. And then I'll jump out here and I'll compile it. And I'll run it with its assertions with the test. And text should match on line 15. Line 15, salute tout le monde, or whatever it is obviously it's not printing that. So I'll come over here, and one iteration I could go through if I really wanted to was just make this say the French thing, which I will do. Let's do that. Copy this, jump over here, and then I'm just going to make it say the French one. Now effectively our original test has become a regression test, because behavior that used to work now should no longer work, which is exactly the case on line 9. Text should match. This is line 9 right here, but we're not getting a complaint right here, either because this assertion bailed us out early, or because in theory, you know, if these were run randomly, this one should have passed. So this effectively now works as a regression test as well, which says, hey, somebody came in here, all they cared about was trying to make this thing talk in French. They weren't paying attention to the legacy uses of this code or this API, and now they've now broken it. So we're able to not only see that right away, but also whether or not it does the French properly. So right here, what I'm going to do is revert that to hello world, and then if we come down here, once again, kind of duplicating it, what I was doing earlier. And then right here, we're going to take a string of a language. And we'll say, if a language is French, we'll make it lowercase. No offense to French people, just to make it easy to type. If language is French, sorry, I've got Python syntax in my head right now, and I need to stay in Java land. Okay, if language is French, then return hello, or the French one, right? Is that still in the, there it is. Then return that, else return just the regular old say hello. Probably not the best way to do it. I would even say definitely not the best way to do it, but hey, it gets the job done. It's the minimal code, not overthinking, saving. Looks like the test is saved. All right, let's compile and run the tests again and see what happens. Text should match line 15. Okay, over here, line 15. The thing is, we're still calling the original say hello function. So we now need to pass in French there. And that's going off the screen over there. So I'll go ahead and bring this back over there like that. Save it. Compile. Run with assertions. All right, it's working. So as you can see, there it is. That's refactoring hello world, literally, right? I can even do a little bit of whatever. Still not the best way to do it. Okay, and since I just made this change, I should technically compile again and rerun my tests. Make sure I didn't mess up the syntax or something. So hopefully you can see how that could go and work at scale, right? And of course I could come in here, it's a red-green refactor in general, so I could come in here and go, maybe this should be an enum. Maybe I should have an enum in here. Things like that, and just start fleshing that out, but keeping the same behavior for the most part. If I do decide, you know what, a string's suboptimal, it's kind of tacky looking, people are going to wonder about my programming chops if I'm doing that. This is an unpublished interface, an unpublished API, so we could change that, no problem. I would say that wouldn't technically be a refactor per se, like a pure refactor, but it'd be right on the line, right? And our test would let us know as soon as we do that, it's going to break the string one. Then we could come in and effectively refactor the test, I guess, for lack of a better term, and make it take the enum, so on and so forth. But yeah, so just by refactoring hello world with our own little built-up framework, we can start to see how to get the smells out of this program and to make it more modular. We could start doing dependency injection, whatever. Don't want to get too far off in the weeds. Thanks a lot for watching. And please let me know if you have any rebuttal to this, or hey, you forgot about this thing, or what about that? Let me know. I like to think with an engineering mindset, so I prefer harsh criticism. That I absolutely prefer that any day.